If you want to get some made or whatever, I can take them out to Ron.
I don't have the file at all.
Ron, we're gonna get some printed out. We don't have any right on hand, and maybe Ron Peterson will be out by you and bring them out.
And get it to me before the 18th, and I'll take them out to the south.
Okay, anything else? Okay. Jerry, I think we're gonna come right over to you then. We'll get you started.
Jeff? What? Come here. No. Come on. No. You gonna do a work? I just had one. Okay. I'm gonna have these guys go.
Yeah, I don't see any reason why not.
I'm gonna turn it over to Jerry and the other members.
Mr. Rita to you.
And the sidewinders. Yeah, Mr. Rita and the bodyguard.
There were 5 of us that got together to build this monstrosity over here. Couple
Can't
months
hear
ago.
ya.
Hold on. Hold on. Let's use this one, and then I'll get the other one going. Can you hear me now? Yeah? Okay. There were 5 of us that got together to build this monstrosity set up here. And the other 2 that aren't here is Joe Ebley and Jay Pillay. They all contributed different pieces. They all gave them back to me, and I put it together. And I had very, very little tweaking to do to make it go together. All right, so everybody did a very good job. And you see it, it's beautiful work on it. It's beautiful work. All right? Now, Jeff, you want to say a couple words?
Couple words. Yeah, I took all the easy pieces. I did like 2 flute drill bit that's on the table because I couldn't even attempt a spiral. I did some screw head. I did the, I don't even know what it's called, the connecting shaft that the knob goes into. All pretty much flat stuff. It was just, cut the size, drill some holes, slap it together. So I'll let Jerry do all the hard work. There, I'm done.
Is there a spring in there with the 3 jaws too?
Yes, it is, and it works.
Darn it.
It works easier if we don't have such high humidity.
Okay, so I'm out of here.
Thank you, Jeff.
Yeah, I made 3 pieces on the drill. By trade, before I retired, I was a mechanical engineer, so I'm used to making drawings and giving it to somebody else to make the pieces. And it turns out that the production guys call the drawings comics. And now I know why. Jerry made all the drawings, and my pieces, well, yeah, they're not quite to print. But anyway, I made the handle and the knob on the end and the fluted drill bit. The knob on the end of the handle is threaded, so it threads onto the body. And I've got a threading jig here that I can show you how I did it. And of course, part of the trick here is when you make this is the piece that gets the threads cut. And there's a lead screw, I can hold it real quick. There's a lead screw here that gives you the pitch, and this cutter here actually cuts the threads. The problem is when you look at that piece there, it's 2 feet long, and you've got to hang it off the chuck. So you'd be way back here. So what I ended up doing is making that in 2 pieces, and also the knob on the end. And of course, the knob on the end is segmented, so glued it together, and nobody knows the difference. But it was just interesting, and carving the drill bit, that wasn't a bad job. I suckered Bruce into joining the carving club down there in the scene, and so carving a spiral like that it's kind of fun. And I won't tell you what happened to the first one I carved.
that burn well?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Dennis.
The gear on there, that's usually cut on a milling machine. How did you do it?
He did. I didn't do the gears, Jerry did. The pieces I did were I did these two, and then the bit on the end. You know, from one end to the other, nothing in the middle.
They couldn't have done that on CNC machines.
Wow.
Can you hear me?
I don't know.
Can you hear me?
So Dennis, when that bit needs sharpening, we bring it back to you?
Is that Joe Concrete?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can sharpen
You
it
don't
all.
hear your voice, I heard you hitting that.
What diameter drill is it?
What's a 64th less than 3/4? Whatever it is, that's what it is.
Can you hear me now?
47 64ths.
No,
Not at all.
It is.
no.
Can you mention?
No, you gotta get it close.
Proportional lines?
I hear you rattling it.
Yeah, can you hear me now?
A
Yeah.
little bit.
Better?
Yeah.
Better? Is that better?
Yeah.
That's better.
Yeah.
All right, we'll go with that. Okay. All right. And if
I'll take that off, Jerry.
I can just lift it up.
Yeah, just, there's another piece there to the cutter.
Yeah. I'll let you get that. So go over here.
How much did that cutter bit cost you?
Well, not very much. I was at Aeromont last fall. They had a bunch of stuff they were selling, and so
Oh, they didn't know what they were selling apparently.
literally, the threading jig is, with the cutter, which is $60, was retail price is $350, and I didn't pay anywhere near that. Some old guy had croaked and just donated to the school. They have if you're ever interested in learning how to turn really well, they have a wonderful turning program down there at Aeromont. And this fall, Jacques Besseray, who's going to be in Chicago, is teaching a week-long class down there. So,
Gary, what ratio is that to the?
Six times.
Slides?
Yeah. Okay. So this is the real one that I use as a model. This was actually owned by my dad. He passed it on to me. I took it all apart, measured all the pieces, made all the drawings, and then made templates for it. And then we'll pass the stuff out and guys put it together. What I made was the pinion gears, the big gear, and the chuck. And this particular shaft here goes into the chuck. All right? So, and like I said, it does work. Everything works. Okay? We can't pick it up and show you right now because the way it's sitting is kind of bent. Okay? But when I had this all done, I actually put the gears on here and spun it by hand so they can go around very good. Sorry. What we,
so does the chuck work too?
yes, what we have.
Oh,
No, you got to put it down.
You went out.
You're just too close to the speaker right now.
Maybe, okay. Are we okay? It's okay, all right, good, all right. We're gonna take this to the tool show whenever they have one again with the plane that we got back there. all right? And what we need to do is put it on some type of a stand, right? So that we can show that it actually works for each other. We gotta figure out how to hold it in that stand. And I think we're gonna have to put it in a stand to actually put it totally together. Because I need to glue this one in, shaft yet. This one's free, but the shaft is glued in. And we have to glue this one on yet. And that controls the interface between these gears.
Did you
Could you do a tripod?
actually cut the gears on a milling machine?
No, I'll show you how I did that.
Hurry up.
I'd use a tripod, have a straight vertical in the tripod.
I don't know, we got, we don't really have to do it. But you gotta be careful where you hold it. also. Or
I was
otherwise it
saying,
won't-
you can hold it by the handle part.
Well, maybe, yeah.
What do you think the whole thing weighs? Roughly?
Well, we had a Coker guys pick it up. What do you think, Jeff? What
I
do
don't
you-
think I've ever looked at it.
You didn't? I thought you picked it up. Yep, we moved it back there.
Oh, but
I-
it's light,
Yes.
there's nothing to it.
It seemed lightweight. It was-
Lightweight?
No,
It
they
did.
said it's got
It was-
50 pounds.
You don't
No,
think
it
so?
wasn't 50 pounds.
No? All right. Well, I mean, a lot of it's hollow, right? When we put it together with segmented rings, it's all hollow.
Are there different sized bits?
That's the
Can't
next
get the
project.
box, but we haven't made the box to hold them yet.
Okay.
You gotta talk to the bit maker.
Okay.
Yeah, we went with this one, but when I opened it up and reeled it, this is the kind of bits it had in it, right? Like you use on a Yankee drill, right? So that's why we went with this one. And Dennis says, well, I can make a twist bit for you. And I said, hey, give it a try.
Yeah, right.
Now, if you look, this has actually got the lands and everything on it. It's a beautiful job. Okay, let's see. All right, let's go back to the slide, next one. All right, I'm going to try to explain this in three parts. I'm going to talk about this one first, the pinion gears. I'm going to talk about the big gear. I'm going to talk about the chuck. All right. These are some of the first pieces I had to think about when doing the pinion gears. First of all, I used segmented rings for the pinion gears, right? And then I cut the body out to look like this, the body of the gear, right? Now I had to figure out how to put the teeth in it. Right? Well, there's 15 teeth in there. So first thing I did is I had to make an index plate with 15 holes in it to fit on my lathe, okay? This was made on my new CNC machine, all right? So it's very accurate. Okay? Put that on my lathe. I use the small lathe over here, the Rikon lathe, okay? So you see, when I put stuff on here, it's not going to fit very well, all right? So this is the index part that would normally fit up here, so I put my bolt in it. All right? This is just a bolt where I cut the threads off, all right? So it fits into here, so I can index it, all right? Yeah. All right, so now I figured how to do that. Now I had to figure out how am I going to cut the gear teeth in there. Well, I've got the gear. Next slide. Next slide. Okay, that, you can see how it fits on the lathe like that, very similar to what I've got sitting here. Next. All right. I had to come up with something like this. It fits right in here. Now the gear, gear blank is sitting inside of here. Okay? And it's a bevel gear. So this comes down to here, and I got a hole in here. This hole was actually cut on the on my CNC machine also, so that I could cut these on the CNC machine. All right? These are my templates. All right? So I set this on here, down in that counter board there. All right? I have a router up here. All right? That's a palm router, small one. Okay? I've got this all locked. Nothing's moving. Nothing's turning. Except, and I use a bushing, thank you. All right, a bushing to go into this slot here. All right, and I got set there, and I do shh, and I make a cut down the middle of the tooth. Okay, rotate it, same thing, 15 times. All right, take this one out, put this one in, go a little deeper. All right, almost to the root, not quite, but almost. Okay. Now I've got the slots made for the gears. How am I going to shape the gear, right? All right, well, I've got another one here. but it's offset. Put that in there, you loosen this up, you rotate this at the right angle. All right? Run it across there 15 times, right? Take this off, flip it to this side, rotate it to this angle. All right? Cut the other side. Get that one. The other bevel, right, because the gear's got 2 bevels on it. All right? Got that one. Flip it over, on the other side, do that one. There's the teeth, okay?
So you only went around 75 times.
75 times, that's all.
Wow.
All right? Okay, so that's how I made the pinion gear.
Small gear.
All right? And the first time I tried setting this up, I set this up in holes here. I put a hole in here and a hole in here with a bolt in it with a washer, okay? I was going to pivot it that way. Didn't work. I wasn't in the center of the gear. All right, I thought I could rotate this around the gear, but it didn't. It rotated into the gear, and I couldn't get to it then. All right? So I had to figure out how to get it through the center. I got a big hole in here. This cutout here actually fits on the chuck body, and I use that as one of the pivot points. And then I had the bolt through here, like this one. So that gave me my pivot with this right through the center of the gear then. All right, so that's how that worked. And it came out pretty good. However, I got all types of drawings and labels on these things. And when I put it in here and I started cutting, and I looked at the gear after I made about a half a dozen teeth, and I'm cutting the tooth away. I had this on the wrong side.
Doesn't it always happen?
Yeah.
It always happens.
Oh, it's always something, right? So now I
What
got
number gear is this?
my number gear, 15.
15?
15.
Okay.
No, actually, those are the first and only 2.
Really?
Really, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I had actually, instead of having the land at the top of the tooth, it actually cut it off and it was a sharp point. All right? So I got some scrap wood in my glue, and if you look at it, you can see it, because there's no difference in grain, right? And you can see where I had glued wood on there, where I cut it off, put it back in here, and did it the right way. All right?
How long did it take you to dream this up?
And that's exactly what I did. I dreamed it up. I did. Yes,
What kind of wood is that?
it's all pine. 99.9% pine. Okay. I looked on YouTube at a lot of videos on how to make threads on a machine. All right, and that gave me some ideas. All right, which started this off, which also moved right into the threads. Okay. But I just sort of dreamed about it when how am I going to do this? You know, I knew if I set it up right, I could do it with a router. I just had to figure out how to do it. Right? And I got all of these dimensions, all the templates and everything off of my CAD system. Right? And in these were all made on the CNC machine, so they were all as accurate as the drawing was accurate. So, what was the other thing I was going to say? Don't remember.
You know, Jerry, I was just thinking, we all have that one teacher that said, you're not going to amount to anything. Where is that teacher now?
All right, so what do we got next? Okay, there we saw those, we saw that, we saw that, we saw how that works. See, you can see it in there now, see? There's the blank sitting inside that box, right? Okay, next one. Right, there we go. You can see where it's, now I moved the router up there. I kind of stood behind it and just pushed it down. Right, and where the hole slot was a little bit wider than it flew over, it flew back over there. And you can see there's some clamps on it. I had to put the clamps on it because I only had one bolt holding the whole thing together, this thing in the middle, right? Because it was resting on the chuck body. Right? And I didn't want it to move or get out of parallel. So I actually clamped it in the back and clamped it here. Sometimes I had more clamps on it than I had tools. All right, next one. Okay. All right, any questions on the Pinion here? All right. All right, let's see, what are we going to do? We're going to do the large gear now, all right? All right. Okay, now, where the problem came in on the large gear was my CNC machine is only 12 by 13. All right? And I made that gear on there. That's a 20-inch diameter gear, 5 inches tall. And my machine is 12 by 13 by 3 inches. All right? Okay. So I had to go back to bed and drink.
It's been a long time sleeping.
This is my first attempt right here. Okay. What's nice about the gear is that it's got 56 teeth. They divided by 8 is 7, so it's a 7-segment gear tooth here. 45-degree angle, 8 pieces, 8 segments. So it just worked out perfect. This fit on my machine without a problem. Not this way, because that's too high. All right. So what I had to do was I looked at the drawings. And you can see the sheep here, it's got this curve in it. I had to figure out where I could slice that. So I had pieces that were stuck together, that stayed together. And I got how I worked on it. This is actually made up of 5 3/4-inch layers of lines. What I did was, you see, let's put that slide back. This was the first piece that went on. Okay? That piece is right here. This cut here, and right across here. Okay? And you'll notice that I had to screw it down to the table. There's 3 screws on it. Okay? I was using double-sided tape. For a piece that big, it's going to have a little warp to it. I screwed it to the table. You'll also see 3 other holes up there, sort of in the middle. Okay, those are random holes, so when I take this and flip it to the back side, I can put dowel rods in there and locate it exactly in the same position. Okay,
You put the contour in there also.
yes, it's 2-sided CNC mold. Okay. All right. So that was the first piece right there. And that's what I made here. Right? But before I go any further there, I'm going to show you how I did this one. I made this piece here, like that. Then I took a piece of wood, put it on here, and a piece on here, with newspaper between it. Glued it on with newspaper. The machine, the first half of the gear, because the gear is too deep for my tool to reach. And then with the longer bit, I didn't have any room anyway with my Z-axis. Right? So I just cut that first 3/4 inch layer here. Then I stuck another piece on top of that, and on top of this one, and finished the gear teeth, and finished this, similar up.
Jerry, you said you put a piece of newspaper. I couldn't hear everything. Is it because you're gluing the pieces and you can use the paper to separate them?
Exactly. Exactly.
Okay.
Right? Exactly.
That's not fair, man.
Yes. All right. So once that was all done, and I actually didn't take this off the machine. I glued them down while they were still on the machine. Because I didn't want to screw up the location in any way. Right. So after this was machined, I pulled this piece off, pulled this piece off. Okay. So it goes away. Flip this one over. Right. Located them with the dowel pins. Right. Put another piece on here. Right. Cut that out. Cut this part out here. And the bottom part of the boss. Right? And then I put another piece on for this one, and for this top edge here. And took it off the machine, and then I was going to glue this onto here and make 8 segments like that, minus the boss, because there's only one with the boss. Right? It just took so much time. gluing these pieces on and waiting for it to dry in the machine, right?
What kind of CNC machine do you have?
I have the next wave machine upstairs, the red small one.
You like it?
Yes, I do. Yeah. I'll probably wish I had a bigger one at some point in time, but right now, it's fine. Okay. But I just, it's just gonna take forever to glue these pieces on and wait for it to dry. Right? And that glue it on and wait for it to dry. So I came up with a different idea. Next slide. All right, so I'm starting exactly the same way. Same piece, same first cut. Okay. This is the Gear C side. Okay. This is that's called the spoil board. That's where you can cut into when you're cutting through pieces. Okay. And that's the MDF. Those 3 holes in there, those are the holes that I drilled in when I flipped the piece over. Okay. And then put the dowel pins in. Okay. Next, there's the second side. Okay. That's the rough, I roughed that out, that's roughing it out, the second side. Next, now I glue this piece on. Okay. Next, and rough that piece out. Okay. So now what I've got is the center part. There's 2 boards in the middle. Those are done. Okay. Okay, next.
But you're still gluing those together.
Yes, still gluing those together, okay? All right, now, and I apologize, I don't have slides on everything I did. And I think I mentioned this before, when you work on stuff like this, you forget about the camera. You're concentrating on what you're doing. You know? And then you say, oh, you know. Yeah, darn. Okay, so what I actually did now, after I had that's 2 centerpieces done, I actually had individual pieces of wood, like in this shape, put the first one down, cut the half of the gear, put the other piece on, finish the gear. Okay. And the piece one on top of it is a full piece, because otherwise I'd have to glue little bitty pieces on there to cut those out. So it's a full piece, and I cut it all out. Okay. So I did all 8 gears like this. Okay, so I had 8 of these sitting off to the side, and I got these pieces here. I did the same way. I just piece of wood and cut those on the side. The hubs pieces, I actually, instead of having 8 pieces, only did 4. All right? Because when I was actually cutting some of those, it started to break into it, they break them off. All right? So then it's allowed me to overlap the glue lines, also give it a little more strength. Okay. So then what I had was a bunch of pieces. Here's one of them I was doing. Okay. Here's the top part, that's fine. Here's the next part where I set this on, roughing this out. One of the things that you forget to do sometimes on your CNC machine is you have to reset 0 for each time you change the height or you change a bit, right? Okay. And I never forget to reset 0, X, and Y. I forget the Z. Okay. All right. And I don't know how many times I did that. I was able to catch it on this one I didn't catch. It's cutting way too deep in here. All right. So, and I was trying to watch it, you know, but sometimes you just don't see it. You know? So that was a bad piece. Again, I forgot to set the 0, and there it goes over, it's cutting right across it. And I'm moving about 70 inches a minute. You don't have much time to react, you know. So by the time you say, oh, you know, it's already gone that far. Here's another one. I'm not quite sure what happened here. I think I jostled and moved my XY0 a little bit, all right, because they don't line up at all. Okay. It's off about 1/4 of an inch this way and about 1/16 this way, all right. So I jostled it and messed it up. So, but you can see where the two layers are at. See? This is one piece that I finished the teeth on, and then I glue another full piece on it to finish the teeth. So, it's not all roses. But all right.
Yeah.
Oh, it's all then resolved.
See?
All then resolved.
All right, what do we got next here? Okay, oh, all right. Now, this one, I have my CNC machine in I have 3 rooms in my basement. One of them is an office where I have my computers and all my resource material. One is a big shop where I got the tools like this in there. Then I have one that's about half the size, same tools, but they're only this big. I have a table saw in there that's not any bigger than this. I have a drill press that's about this tall. So that's for the little stuff that I do. That's where I have the CNC machine, is in there. But it got dust all over the place. I got more nooks and crannies in that little room. And I got these chips all over the place. So I moved it, and it's actually sitting on my table saw right now with this shot here. And go back. Can you go back now? Go back. Yeah, there you go. You can see the chips around there. See? And that wasn't a lot of cutting. You know, that didn't do much cutting there. So what I did was I built this box to go in it. I just had a foam board, and put a little clear plastic hole in there so I could see what was going on. And my vacuum hose, which didn't do anything but hang there. So then when I was through cutting, I took the box off and used the vacuum hose and just sucked it up right around it. So it works out real great.
How long did it take to cut a segment?
Now, I'd say on an average, probably 20 minutes. On average. Because, like I said, I was going about 1/8 of an inch deep to 7 inches a minute. And that's usually a rough and finish. Yes. And the fact the finish was going a little faster.
Would you say your prep time was probably 7 to 10 times as long as the actual cutting time? I mean, with everything involved?
It was about the same. About the same. Yeah.
In the planning?
Oh, well, no, the planning for months. Yeah. It lengthened time. It was overnight. 8 hours a day. You know,
Yes.
well, that was just a twinkle of an idea there, and I had to figure out what that meant. Next slide, please. Okay, so this is machining, the one with the boss on it again. You can see there. I cut the hole in it with the CNC machine and the boss there. You can see the tabs. I actually put tabs on it also now. There's one down in the corner here you can see, and then you see another one up there. That's what holds the piece inside the thing, so that you can turn it on both sides without falling out. Okay, next. All right, this is a dry fit, all the pieces now. All right. So what it is, I took all of the, where's it here? All of my segments that I had. And nothing was actually glued together yet, not a thing on there was glued together. So I took all of the segments, and just set them on my workbench there, and I put a hose clamp thing around there, the ones that you tighten up, okay? Pulled it all together, and it actually fit pretty good. I was surprised about it, but it did. It went together really nice. Okay? And then I just set the ear teeth on there. It was 7 segments, just set them on there. On the bottom, right down here in the corner, those are the back pieces I've just got a setting on. And they're not glued together, just setting on it. And over in the left-hand corner there, you can see the mouth pieces that are just stacked up over there. All right. So that was the dry fit. You see what it looked like? I did take 4 of the gear segments by themselves, put it on the bench, to see if these pinion gears would roll on it. I hate to go through all this stuff, but they go. But I just pushed it just right around. Okay, next. All right, now I'm gluing it together. So I'm starting upside down. I glued it, the brown stuff, that's a door that I had, that I put masonite hardboard on it, we put slots in it so I could use as a room table, and that sits on top of the previous one. Because we never have enough surface area, flat surface to work on. Right. So that's gluing the hub and these rings here on right there. And segments together. Okay. All right, next slide. All right. Now I'm putting some more of these rings on up there. I'm glad my wife said, don't you have enough clamps? I said, you never have enough clamps.
Perfect example right there.
Next one. Okay.
Think about those times we can get replaced on them.
Yeah. Okay, so now what I've got, so what I've got done is all the segments are together, this hub is on, and these pieces here are on. Okay? Now, what I want to do is, because this is all ingrain, right? So it's a little rough, okay? And there's a little bit of nits and notches and stuff like that in it for different reasons. So I went to my 12-inch disc sander, I put a plate on it there, I put a nail in it right in the middle here, right down there, for a center point. Next slide. I set the gear on there like that. I had another piece of wood down inside the board there with the hole in it. Turned on this and then I just turned it. Okay, just to smooth this out. Okay, next one. Okay, now, these screws here. Okay, that's what I'm getting set up to do here, putting those screws in. I'm a little anal. When I looked at the real one, they were on there, so I figured, we gotta put them on there, right? Okay. So I got the same base I had before. Now I'm on my router table, and I'm starting to set it up to put those grooves in. And I've got a slot cutter to do it on it. All right, next slide. Next slide. There we go. All right, you can see that there. Okay. Now to control the depth, on the top corner of my plate there, I've got the gear swing on, I just got a screw in there so I can pivot this thing in and out. Okay. These shims here are 1/32 and 1/16. Okay. I was going to go a 32nd each time I went it out. Okay. So as I moved this plate into this block here, where that little slot is in there, I put one of the shims in there, and that gave me that depth of cut. Okay. Alrighty, so that's how I did that. I rotated it by hand and made those cuts on there. Alright, next one. Now I'm going the gears on the top. Alright, same way, used all my clamps, almost. Alright.
There's one missing in the back.
Oh, here's where I put the gears on it, just to roll them and see how it works. All right, that's the large gear. Any questions on that one? Everybody can do one then?
Now, you made a comment earlier, I was trying to talk about gluing, put a piece of wood to glue it.
Yes,
Nice to see
it
that.
separates.
Well, it separates
You
that.
just put a knife blade in there, and then it's pulled apart.
Okay,
That's my parent maker screw now.
Yes.
okay.
Yeah. It just splits the paper, newspaper right in half.
Okay.
Yeah.
I never do it.
Sometimes you can do it with grocery bags, round grocery bag. Yeah. I mean, that's how they used to hold parts on the way you go and find that one. They put just a piece of wood on here and glue the other piece to it with paper between it.
Okay.
And then that's how they locked it off, whatever that.
Oh, that's when you make symmetrical stuff turn.
Huh?
Turn symmetrical stuff that way.
Yes.
You got a hollow hole in there and you can,
Yep.
What kind of glue do you use? What kind of glue do you use?
Type original, type original. Okay, all right. There's those parts right now is the truck body. This part here's the tall one. These are two pieces. They're just one sitting on top of the other. And then this is the other piece is the cab, truck cab. Okay, that's all segmented rings glued together. Next one. Oh, and you can go back. Get down about here, that's your chuck jaw. Okay? What I took 3 square pieces, cut it at 60-degree angle, so I had 120 degrees between them. Okay? Glued in the gable with paper between them. Okay? Put it on the lathe and turn that cone. Okay? Go apart. There's the 3 jaws. Okay? And that's made out of oak. I wanted something a little harder, a little different. And when I finished them, I put wood hardener on them, and then I put shellac on it, and then I waxed them. All right, so I'd be sure that it would slide inside. And I waxed the inside of this also when I moved. Okay. There's the springs. Now, we thought for a long time how to make wood springs that would work. All right? We just couldn't do it, you know. So I went to Ace, and I bought 3 springs. And those springs that I bought were perfect in length and diameter and everything, except they were too strong. I couldn't turn the chuck on this thread to get it to work because it was pushing too hard against the threads. Right? So I had to go back, and I got 3 springs just like it, but stepped down in diameter of wire. Right? And it works fine now, except for the humidity. All right. Okay. Next slide. I had to drill counterboards in both sides of the jaws where the springs go, right? Because you got a jaw here, and the springs between them. So I had to drill those counterboards in there. So that's just a little L bracket on there. The clamp holding the jaw against it. It's squared up on the top left side there with another block to keep it level. And then I got a wedge underneath it to support it when I put a counterboard in. And that's how I did the counterboard stuff. Okay. Next one. This is a pointer. It's a pointer. All right. I thought somebody was going to beat me with it when he walked up. Thank you. All right. Okay, so here. These are some of the parts I had to use in order to make the threads. You've got an external thread here and an internal thread. On this one, you have an internal thread. All right? Okay. Now these threads are, this one's 5 inches diameter, 5 pitch. This one is 3 inches diameter, 5 pitch. Okay. You try to figure, how am I going to make something like that? All right? Could have tried using Dennis's machine.
You sleep on it.
It just wasn't, you know. I slept on it.
Yeah.
These are my 2 main, some of my main parts. Right? This goes on the lathe. It's like a faceplate. Right? That holds the components on here. Right? This block goes in the tailstock, holds the other end. I really have to thank Tom for this, right? Because I wouldn't have gotten this far without him. You hear that?
Oh, yes, yeah, the robust.
Robust. He talked me into buying this when we were at Robust the last time. All right? This goes into your tailstock here, all right? And it's got a, what is that, a 1 inch 8?
3/4 10.
3/4 10 thread on it. Okay? So you can thread different things on this end. That's what this came from, all right? So I made a thread in there, 3/4 10. Put it on like this. Put it in the tailstock. Okay. And this faceplate goes on here, like this. Right. Fits better than this one. Right. You notice the nut that's in there, though? Okay. That's a 1 3/8 5 lead nut. Right. 1 3/8 5 lead steel shaft. All right. I was looking on, where do we buy all this? Where do we buy this stuff at on the internet?
MasterCard
Thank
or
you.
Ranger.
The MasterCard. Thank you. I'm looking at his stuff, and there it is, looking me right in the face. All right. So that's it. That is the key right there. All right. That's how I get the lead. All right. another nut on this end, okay? Now, let's say this is the internal thread. Let me see what I'm doing first here. I don't know if I'm doing internal or external. Next slide. Next slide. Internal. Okay. You can go back one. All right. We're going to do internal threads. All right. Okay, so we got this sitting on here. I thread this into here. Okay. This in here is forced into here. Okay. All right. This is almost the diameter of the hole on the cap, or the inside hole of the cap, inside thread of the cap. Okay. This here is a 60-degree metal lathe bit for turning threads. Okay. I got a square hole in there. I got it as tight as I can. Okay. I got it as deep as I can, so I didn't get any movement in it. I didn't want it to twist on me. I didn't want it to wobble on me. I got it in there. I couldn't get it out. Because I need to change the depth of the thread as I'm doing, as I'm cutting it. I couldn't get the thing out. First one I tried, I put pliers and I tried to pull it up, and I chipped it with the carbide, but I got it out. All right. See this little piece of paper here? That's a playing card that I got from Potawatomi. Right. I glued that to the back of it. Now I want it to get out of this hole in there. All right. Comes out. It goes back in again. All right. To adjust the height of it, Potawatomi playing cards, cut into quarter-inch squares, 10,000 stick card. Drop one down in the hole, bingo. Drop another one into the hole, bingo. That's how I changed it up. Okay. So now we got the part sitting on here. We got this all sitting in here. Nothing is going to be moved. It's all locked. Everything is locked. Nothing's moving. Nothing's turned on. I'm sitting here turning this by hand. All right, cutting the threads as I turn this. Okay? Because I got it super hot glued together. All right, this is the lead. This is the nut. It's pushing it right through, creating those threads. I did that same thing on the bigger inside nut, all right? Just a bigger piece, all right? There's my square hole. Right? And I used the loosen and tighten the chuck. Instead of the key, you got the rods. I used the rod in there to turn it. That was a little bigger. I just did the rod.
How long did that take you?
Okay. I don't keep track of time. I was just glad it was working. Okay, let's see where we are up here. Next. Okay, so I see that's what I just showed you. There, see, there's the big one. See, that's how I'm cutting it. Just cut through it. It just cuts it real nice. Okay. Next one. There's the threads. I cleaned them up with a brush. All right, yellow fast enough. Then I use that min-wax wood hardener. I used that on it. Right, because I didn't want to apply a heavy finish like that. So that just soaks right in, but it hardens them. Okie dokie. Next. External. We're going to take this again, put this on here, because that's what's holding everything. Come back with my little box here. I'm going to use this guy again. Okay. I make a new top. All right. Yeah. This stuff is made same way, same CNC machine. It goes in here, like this. It locks in with the same bolts. All right. Now I put my router up here with the 60-degree bit in it. All right. Still got it attached to one of these. It's still in here, right? It all goes together, all built inside here, all fits together. All right. Turn the router on and start turning this again. And there's all your external threads. It worked out real great. Next. There you go, there's the box, okay? There's it sitting on there, all right? That's the cap, I'm doing the external threads on this cap here, all right? And you see the rod through it? So I just kept turning that. See, nothing was moving, I couldn't, the cutting bit didn't move. See, that's why I could do this and cut the threads, okay? Next, there's an external, that's these threads here, okay? See how long that was? Okay. Okay. Knurling. Knurling, right here. All right. Okay, I didn't have anything here. Okay, knurling. This is what tools I use for knurling. There's a back saw, hacksaw, 60-degree file, and a brush.
Did this all by hand?
All right here.
Yeah.
All right here.
How'd you hand it?
All right, next. All right, I took a piece of paper, wrapped it around the diameter, marked it, measured it, went to my computer. How many divided segments I wanted to divide it up into, like say a quarter of an inch or something, came out close, okay? Cut it out of the paper. That's my measuring tool now. So I wrapped it around here and put little tick marks on each of them. And on the back side, at a 45-degree angle, little tick marks. Okay. All right, next. All right. Drew lines both directions with the pencil. Okay. I think it was like 90 lines each direction. Okay. All right, now I got my lines on there, right? Now I took the Japanese back cut saw, right? I did that because it's easier to control as you turn with this and pull the saw than it is to try to push, right? Okay, so I did that. As all I did was just, not too deep, just a scoring mark all the way around. Right? Don't ask me how long it took either. This was days because I could only do like
I bet that was 3 nights sleep.
like 2 at a time. I mean, like maybe 5 or 6 at a time. I had to stop. All right. All right. Go back.
Go back.
Go back. All right. Now that I've got that scored, right? Then I took the hacksaw, which is a little thicker, right? And I used the hacksaw and made the line a little deeper, a little thicker. Okay. I took the 60-degree file and went through it to clean it up and put a little bevel in. Okay. Every one of those lines. And then the brush was just to clean up any feathers that run. All right. So it took a long time, but it worked. Right? It worked. Okay.
Patience.
Next. Okay, now I'm gluing the cone. I'm gluing the cone onto the body. Okay, I put it on the lathe so I get it all lined up and centered. Okay, next. And there we go. There's the chuck with the bit in it, with the shaft in it, to make sure everything fit and worked. Next. That's it. That's it.
Oh,
It's incredible.
And if you come up here and look inside, you can see the springs in here. All right. We tried turning it, not sure that it does work, but I think it's going to be too tight with this humidity down here. We may have to go in and cut the tops of those teeth off a little bit with some sandpaper, loosen them up a bit. All right. Any questions?
Absolutely
what's the
incredible.
next one? What's the next tool?
Oh, no. My wife says that is enough. You're not. Because I ignored her for like months working on this. Well, she got back at me. Her list got longer and longer.
What is the ratio from how big you made it?
6 times.
6 times.
6 times. Yep. I drew everything actual size, and then I just used the computer to blow it up.
Jerry, out of all that you ended up doing, what did you find to be the hardest part to work with, or hardest part to figure out?
I'd say the threads. Initially, the threads. Yeah. I knew I could do the gear teeth, these here, on my CNC machine without a problem, okay? This was my first attempt of doing a 3D drawing and moving it into the CNC. Everything before that had been flat work, okay? So I had a little challenge there to do that. I kept trying to figure out how to do these on my CNC machine. All right? I knew if I could hang them off the front end, I could cut it. All right? But I couldn't go past the front that far, right, to do it. So now I was saying, well, could I do them in halves or something like that, you know? But I couldn't do it in half because I can't turn the cutting head, you know. So those were the hardest things. This, trying to make sure I got the jaws made right. I thought I had the right idea on the chuck, you know, on how to do it. You know. This wasn't too bad. I knew what it was like. I knew how to do it, you know, the knurling. So it just took time. So, and I'm pretty patient. I can only build one of something like this. So. But I mean, when you look at the other parts, you know, I mean, they're just as good. There's some difficulties the other guy says, I'm sure, in doing those. If not, in going up the parts, and so forth. You know, especially the big one. See, there's no way I could do this. My legs not big enough to handle parts like that. So, and Dennis stepped up and said, I'll do those.
You take the big stuff, I'll take the small stuff.
Yeah. Anything else?
Well, at least it won't rust.
That's right. But it's going to swell.
We'll take a break for a while then.
Thank you very much.
And I really mean that, Jerry. We take the big stuff.